All right, welcome back. Seun Onigbinde is joining me right now from the United States of America. Hello, Seun, and welcome to the program.
Hello, Nancy. It's great to speak to you this morning.
Hi, Seun. Seun, I can't see you, Director. Please, can you put Seun on the screen so that I can see him? Seun, welcome to the program. What time is it over there? Yes, I can see you now.
It's 6:18. It's 6:18 a.m.
Okay,
Yes, so it's
6:18.
not that late. It's not that early.
Yeah, you should be
Yeah.
an early bird. You should be an early bird.
Yeah.
You're still a very young man. So wake up. All right, Seun, good to see you. Seun, just before we go into the conversation, speak to me about your designation right now at Budget, because I've been seeing the designation change. I'm seeing the executive director. I know you are the founder. What's your position? I needed to clarify that.
Director, just the director. I'm just the director for budget. I'm not even the executive director.
Okay, so we need to take note of that. Director Budget. Seun, let me start by asking or you telling Nigerians like, actually what 2021 budget is all about. You know, I'm not seeing that keen interest anymore in our budgeting process from Nigerians, because at the end of the day, Nigerians will say, it's same old, waiting consign us with budget. Now government's money, government will just come up with their stuff and they do their things their own way. 2021 budget, 13.59 trillion naira, an increase from 10.58 trillion naira of 2020 budget. Is the 2021 budget being felt by Nigerians amid the pandemic?
Yeah, thank you so much. One of the key reasons why we did this, I mean, let's not forget that the budget was signed early in the year, so the soil kicked off at January 1, 2021. But we wanted this budget review process to feed into the 2022 budget. Use this window to engage with stakeholders such as the National Assembly, the Budget Office, and also even other respective, maybe even the budget leads in the respective ministries. One of the key challenges we're seeing in the budget is that it is not optimized for efficiency. You know, Nigeria has a way of always saying that we have a revenue problem, and we have a revenue problem in a significant way. But we also can see that we are spending money in the right manner. We are not optimizing the little funds we have. And that's why the 2021 budget cannot deliver goods as expected for the people. All of the capital projects in there are padded by different items that have no significant value to the citizens in the time of the pandemic. So we have to sit down and review this budget, come through 19,000 projects in the budget and be able to review them effectively. But the budget 2021 budget is also not in isolation. There's the economic sustainability plan, which is managed by the vice president and underpins the recovery of the current pandemic. So we expect that should also have significant impact on the people. But we are also looking at it 6 years into this administration. If you're going to have the previous government headed by President Muhammadu Buhari, there is need to properly sanitize the budget process. A whole lot of items in the budget needs to reflect the priorities of government, and not just extensions of not personal interest of either bureaucrats who just put items in the budget for their own selfish reasons. We need to sanitize the budget process itself.
We'll come back to that, to the issue of the sanitization in a bit, as well as the alarming figure of 19,036 capital projects in the 2021 budget, out of which 316 duplicate projects were detected within 74 federal agencies spread across 23 ministries. In fact, you know, I read the report when you sent it to me, so I had to go through and I saw those numbers, and I was like, I was shouting like a typical Nigerian, wow, what's it be this, you know, and we're still standing. As a country, these are things that should make front row news on major TV stations, not just even business programs, to say what exactly is happening, that we should sanitize our budget process. But let me come back to the aspect of 2021 budget being a budget of economic recovery and resilience. The way it is right now, do you think it's going to deliver that? Because when you're taking a look at the fiscal fundamentals, which we put on the screen earlier, federal government revenue 7.99 trillion, deficits in 5 trillion naira and all of that. Do you think that this 2021 budget can actually deliver that?
I think it can deliver recovery, but not significant recovery the way it's situated now. The first problem is what you have pointed out, over 19,000 capital projects in the budget. Considering Nigeria's protracted procurement cycle, there is no way you can even execute 10,000 projects in the budget in a single year. So if the budget is fragmented, I mean, the capital projects are all over the place. How do you ensure efficiency? How do you ensure that how do you just focus your budget on a few things? I mean, that you deliver that properly. The federal government is the anchor element in the Nigerian governance system. So federal government should focus on the big pipe project. You already have an 100 billion naira fund for constituency projects. So why do you also want to be doing solar lighting systems, borehole systems? Why 50 million naira projects all over the place? Focus on the big pipe projects that yield significant gains for Nigeria in terms of movement of vehicles, in terms of movement of fleet and persons. Focus on things that are big pipe projects that states and local governments projects can feed into. And that's what we expect the federal government to do. And not just focus on micro projects, which we see as littered the 2021 budget. It's not an efficient way of spending public funds, and we don't think that would deliver the right recovery and the resilience that we truly seek.
Let's talk about the corruption trends in the 2021 budget. You know, it's so heartbreaking and so sad that government is borrowing more money for perhaps recurrent and also a bit of capital. We're having deficit spending. We're also having debt servicing, eroding a lot of our capex. And we're seeing those kind of things in the 2021 budget. The issue of trust will come up in the sense that Nigerians are questioning the government. You're telling us that you're going to harmonize parastatals, departments, and agencies. Meanwhile, so many things are happening in the budget which is not right. And I want us to do some name calling this morning because you did that in your report. Out of 19,036 capital projects, 316 duplicate projects were detected within 74 federal agencies spread across 23 ministries and presidency with a cumulative allocation of 39.5 billion. Can you break some of those things down? And which agencies of government or which ministries are culpable of this?
I mean, we said 74 ministries, departments, and agencies, so it cuts across. But we are extremely worried about the Ministry of Health. I mean, I don't know if it's a clerical error, if it's a software error, if it's deliberate to really abuse public. But there were so many projects that were just within the same code, within the same project code that were just repeated serially. And some of the things you see in this way is, if it's intentional, is a balkanization of public funds. So you do that in a way to do what you call contract splitting, so that you are still within a certain threshold and you are not able to allow significant oversight over your procurement. Because within a low amount, you can run some procurement process within the ministry and you don't even need to go up to a FEC or maybe just do with the Minister's Tenders Board. There is a need for the federal government to look much more and look into the budget. I don't know, maybe it's the speed for us to meet the December deadline, but we look into the budget and there are too many errors, too many items that really you can't define. There's no proper clarity about their purpose.
What's the cause of those errors? You talk about whether it's a software error. I don't know. You know, the world is now a bit easier now as a result of technology. You know, so there are some things that technology can solve. What is to blame for those errors? Are they human errors? Because I don't want to think that computers will make such errors. Because if you take a look at, for example, in your report, let's take this instance. Nigerian Institute of Oceanography and Marine Research had an allocation of 300 million naira for supply installation of all-in-one solar street lights, 10,000 lumens with lithium battery across the 6 geopolitical zones. Another agency, National Agriculture Seeds Agency, received an allocation of 400 million naira to implement the same supply and installation of all-in-one solar street lights. So across the 6 geopolitical zones. You have another example, Border Communities Development Agency.
So some of those projects, Nancy, are what you call budget padded. A lot of people, when the budget process is on, they shop around for ministries and agencies and departments to embed projects for them. And those projects most times are not within their institutional mandate. I was referring previously to the serial repetitions of items in the budget, but that's a separate issue. An issue where you can't find an alignment between the allocation given to a ministry and its institutional mandate is alarming. And this cuts across. For example, even Ministry of Agriculture does significant amount of rural routes. And I'm wondering, we have the Ministry of Works. Why does the Ministry of Agriculture have to construct rural routes if we can consolidate on that works and out? We have oceanography, trying to do solar systems. You have forestry, a forest agency doing forestry, also trying to do solar lighting systems. And that's what you see across the board, just because those items represent specific interests that were added and imputed into the budget system. And the budget is an opening for procurement. So definitely if it's in the budget and it has been signed in by the president, there's an opportunity that procurement will begin and contracting will be done. And we will not get an efficient budgeting system if we keep going through this round. If the federal government can have a significant grip on this budgeting process, there has to be. Either someone imputes this in there, you constantly, deliberately defund them, if that's going to be the punishment. Even you just have to make sure that you set a clear marker that as a ministry or as an agency, you are not allowed to impute items to the budget that are in gross conflict with your institutional mandate. So we look at these things and we say, it looks like it's just same of the same. Nothing is significantly changing. We've had it a bit better in the 2018-2019 budget process, but this 2021 budget, combine it through, we still see the significant errors around this. We see fragmentation of the budget. We see budget items not aligned with institutional mandates. We see serial repetition of budget items. And several other issues that should not be happening in the budget that is required to take Nigeria out of bring a significant economic recovery to Nigerians.
Seun, it's this kind of things, hearing this kind of things, it's like I said earlier, so heartbreaking. And I'm wondering that the officials are seeing something like this and no one is talking, not even talking. We're even tired of the talk. Do the work. Because if you take a look at what you've said, budget padding, misalignment, and all of that, which one is more serious or more dangerous? Or are they all the same? The big part of the question is, who is to blame in all of this? What is the role of the Minister of Finance and her ministry in this? Because even when I was taking a look at it, the Ministry of Budget and National Planning had a line item allocation under service-wide votes for 365 billion naira for scaling a national social investment program as part of its capital allocation, while Nigeria's social investment program consisted of many interventions, conditional cash transfer, homegrown school feeding program, and all of that. So we should be watching who now?
Well, your first question, everything is important. Budget padding is is a problem. Budget splitting, budget fragmentation, it's all points to waste and things that do not elevate the interest of the Nigerian. Nigerians are suffering. We might say we have exited the recession, but we are barely out of it. So it's important that every single item in the budget is put into the interest and to the upliftment of every Nigerian. And that's why it's always painful. And I think the blame would go back significantly to the Ministry of Finance. The Minister of Finance, the DG Budget Office, and also the budget officers in the respective ministries, PAMSECs. A lot of the blame is enough to go around. But if there's something that the Minister of Finance should take from this, is that the budget process needs a second review and it needs some significant sanitization. And that sanitization will come from political will from the top. The former Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, tried a bit. And that was the whole process why we brought the budget. Don't forget that before there was a time the budget was under national planning. And later we brought the budget and finance and national planning together so that there can be significant oversight across the entire fiscal value chain. But in a way, that tightness, that compactness, that discipline, we still don't see it happening. And I think this is when the Minister of Finance needs to make a very strong point and seek political will if necessary, so that ministry can comply with these certain guidelines when it comes to budget items and ensure that we have extreme efficiency when it comes to use of public funds. We can't complain about resources are not enough, revenue is not enough, the borrowing so high, deficit is expanding. and we're still not extremely efficient when it comes to expending the little bit. So, because if we keep piling up debt on inefficiencies, then definitely, it's a double jeopardy. We are borrowing, and we're also borrowing for waste, and that also is not something that is useful for Nigeria in the long.
So if you even take a look at some of your findings, we may not even need to borrow at all if we cut our coat according to our cloth, because you're seeing a lot of wastage, billions and billions of naira going to budget duplication, budget padding. And I also noticed that some of these things that you said in your report, that some of these monies were also going to personal accounts.
Yeah, I mean,
and who are those people?
Well, no, I think well, I mean, that's a procurement situation, and that's also something that has to do with the open treasury. And I think we've highlighted that to the accountant general, and I think changes have been made. There's a platform called the open treasury, and Nigerians have not paid extreme attention to it, just because the platform itself is very, very cumbersome and difficult to use. But there is we are doing some work in budget to make it much more easier. But I think more of it is also at the spending side that we need to sanitize. The sanitization needs to cut across. And it has to be before we talk about revenue optimization, which we need to, before we talk about removing waivers, we need to also look at the expenditure side. Who's getting what? And are we getting what for that money that we're giving? Public funds at this dear stage can't just be another free for all, can't just be another, can't be on the extreme benefit to just personal or narrow interest.
Who undertakes that sanitization we're talking about? Because
the Minister of Finance.
The Ministry of Finance that should even undertake is not strong enough in detecting. The ministry, I don't want to say under it, or co-ministry, budget and national plan, is part of what is happening. So,
yeah. It's a finance. We have a single ministry, finance, budget, and national planning. So
we have a minister of state.
If anybody should review that document properly, and also make sure that banks is hand on the table and say, I need much more sanitization of the budget process, and seek political will if necessary from the president. It should be the Minister of Finance.
How about budget office?
The budget office is under the Minister of Finance.
Okay.
So if the Minister of Finance could make it straight directly.
But at least it's their sole role. That they should be able to look, because the Ministry of Finance or the minister also has other agencies under her that she also needs to oversee. But there is a budget office of the Federation which is in charge of these things. Ben Wabweze, I guess, that's the DG, should be taking a look at these things.
Yeah, but you see, like I said, that's why the whole project process is a process problem. And I'm going to say with this, and I'm not trying to defend anybody.
Is it a process problem or a people problem? The people there.
So a process problem first, because people will always be people. People will always want to game the system. But you must have a process that is backed by technology, that removes significant discretion, and that is purpose aligned. And I'm going to explain it. As a budget, you must say, this is what we are anchoring our budget on. Every single ministry must have a mandate. What's the mandate of Ministry of Education? What are your goals? What are your outcomes at the end of the day? And I want to see line items that align with those goals and those outcomes. I don't just want to see any line item. Every single line item should speak to those goals and that outcome. But where we have put the budgeting process in Nigeria is just a list of items that is prepared to be procured. Nothing more than that. It's just all about transaction, not about clear thought process. And that's why I say first, there's a process problem. The second thing is also sanitization. I mean, we are in a rush to always meet this December deadline, which is fine, which is decent. That means we have to start early. And the sanitization of the budget means that significant reviews have to be done. Because people, at agencies and ministry will always want to extend their interest in there. And even when it gets to the National Assembly, this situation still happens.
Thank you very much for bringing up that. National Assembly, are they also culpable because they should have oversight?
Oversight too. So the National Assembly also does not even have oversight, because it's not just one person looking at the budget at the National Assembly level. There are ministries, there are committees that are specific to different ministries. So, if you break the budget into bits like that, the oversight should be easier. But what you see, it's just a mess in how every single institution that should have oversight on this whole process, just lay their guards down. And it could be like, on this platter of expediency, we want to just sign off the budget. But it should not be so. From the start, from the onset, there should be strong processes with sanctions around how budget lines items are designed, are formulated, and are presented and are explained. And they are always targeted to a specific outcome or a specific goal. That's why you look at the education budget. You can't say, oh, this is what we are going to use to transform literacy or numeracy. Oh, this is our goal is to transform teaching infrastructure. Oh, this is our plan to improve teacher training. We don't put our budget in those buckets. And so at the end of the day, we're spending it 4 trillion naira, 8 trillion naira at the end of the day. Then you can't really say, actually, this is where exactly the outcome we said at the beginning, and this is what we get. We need to take with. Yep.
Seun, there's so much to talk about, and we don't have much time because we have to end this interview now. I hope we'll do this again sometime because there are a lot of things that were in that report. In fact, something startling for me was the ECA depletion from about $20 billion to $72.4 million in January 2021. That's a topic for another day. Thank you very much, Seun. Don't go back to sleep. Get on the road. Or have you taken a vaccine since you're in the US? What's it like?
Yeah, I'm vaccinated now.
Okay.
I've taken the 2 shots.
Okay, good. So get on the road. Say me hi to your people over there.
All right. Thanks so much, Nancy. It's a pleasure being here.
All right. I've been speaking with Seun Onigbinde, who is the Director of Budget. At this time, let's bring in our second guest. I'll be looking at the rising costs of local flights in Nigeria. Are you a frequent flyer? In fact, even if you're not a frequent flyer, and you've had experiences in the last few months, send us a tweet. You can also send us messages on our social media platforms. Olumide Ohunayo, the head research and corporate travel, Zenith Consult and Travel, is joining me right now. Hello, Olumide.
Good afternoon, Nancy.
It's still morning here in my part of Nigeria. It's around 12. How are you?
I'm fine. Good.
Okay.